Have you ever wondered how a nation's soul is forged? Well, for Brazil, the answer is found in a story of unbelievable cruelty and exploitation. But it's also a story of incredible resistance and, ultimately, the creation of a vibrant, unique culture. Every country has its own story, right? But some are born from this just violent collision of worlds. And to really get a handle on Brazil, you have to ask, what happens when different cultures clash over the most fundamental things: land, labor, and life itself? And this is where that collision began. See, when the Portuguese first arrived, they weren't really there to build a new society. They were there for wealth. And the land's original inhabitants were violently pushed into a brand new role, a source of cheap or free labor. This right here set a pattern of conflict that would end up defining the next 300 years. So how did it all start? Well, it wasn't with a big war for territory. It actually started with economics, an economy that very quickly twisted into a horrifying system of human bondage. At first, the contact was purely business. The Portuguese were after Brazilwood because it produced this really valuable red dye. The indigenous groups did the work of cutting and hauling the trees. In return, they got things like metal tools and other trinkets. It was a barter system called escambo, and on the surface, it might have seemed pretty simple, but it was actually the first step towards something much, much darker. Then came sugar. And sugar changed absolutely everything. Suddenly, you have these massive plantations that required constant, back-breaking labor on an industrial scale. The demand for workers just exploded. And that relationship with the native peoples, it shifted from a simple barter to outright brutal enslavement. But there was a problem, at least for the Portuguese. Enslaving the local population was difficult. The native communities fought back against that kind of grueling work, and you even had some Jesuit missionaries arguing against it. So the Portuguese crown made a pivot, a huge one. They turned their attention to Africa, where the slave trade was already a horrifically profitable business. This became their solution to the labor problem, and it kicked off one of the largest forced migrations in all of human history. And this solution? It wasn't a trickle, it was a flood. A whole systematic transatlantic machine was created to capture, transport, and sell human beings. It was an industry built on an immense scale with unimaginable cruelty. The logistics of the trade were just brutal. People were captured from all across Africa, but two major ethnic groups were brought to Brazil in huge numbers: the Bantu from areas like Angola and the Nago Yoruba from West Africa. And here's the chilling part. The Portuguese deliberately mixed people from different regions who spoke different languages on the ships and plantations. Why? To make it harder for them to communicate and to organize any kind of resistance. It's easy to get lost in the maps and the numbers. But behind all of that are real people and real stories of terror. Just listen to these words from Mahoma G. Bakwakwa, who survived it. His words give us just a tiny glimpse into the sheer horror of that moment, of being ripped from your world and forced into a future so terrifying you were lucky not to know what it held. And this is how they traveled. These ships had a nickname, tumbeiros, which means tomb ships, and you can see why. People were packed in so tightly they couldn't even stand up, chained together in absolute filth with barely any food or water. For countless men, women, and children, the journey itself was a death sentence. It was a place of just unspeakable horror. So let's talk about the scale, because it is absolutely staggering. 4 million people. That's the estimated number of Africans brought to Brazil alone. That made it the single largest destination for enslaved people in the entire world. Let's be very clear. The immense wealth of colonial Brazil was built directly on their stolen lives and their stolen labor. But, and this is so important, this story of oppression is also a story of the incredible, unbreakable human spirit. Enslaved people were never just passive victims. They fought back, they built families, they held on to their faith, and somehow, under the worst circumstances you can possibly imagine, they forged new communities and an entirely new culture. Resistance really took on all kinds of forms. You had the daily acts of defiance, slowing down the work, pretending to be sick, maybe breaking a piece of equipment. Then you had the incredibly dangerous fugitive escapes, a desperate run for freedom. And finally, you had large-scale organized rebellions, like the Malay Revolt in 1835, that struck absolute terror into the hearts of the slave-owning class. Now, those who managed to escape would often try to make their way to a Quilombo. These were hidden communities of fugitives, usually deep in the jungle or mountains. And you have to understand, Quilombos weren't just hideouts. They were independent societies. They had their own governments, their own farms, their own defense systems. They were powerful, living symbols of freedom in a world built on bondage. And even inside this brutal system, people fought every single day to hold on to their humanity. I mean, think about it. Despite the constant threat of being sold away from your loved ones, people fell in love. They married, they raised children, and created these huge kinship networks. Those family bonds were an absolutely critical source of support and community. Faith was another huge pillar of the community. People were forced to adopt to Catholicism, but they found ways to create their own unique religious spaces. They formed these lay brotherhoods called hermandades, and these were so much more than just church groups. They were centers for mutual aid, they helped preserve culture, and they would even pool their money to buy freedom for their members. They were a lifeline. So what's the legacy of all this conflict, of all this resilience? Well, even though the system of slavery was eventually taken apart, its impact is still deeply embedded in Brazilian society today. And that culture, the one that was forged in the slave quarters and in those hidden communities, it would eventually come to define the entire nation. Now, abolition wasn't some grand moral awakening that happened overnight. It was a slow, calculated process, really designed to protect the economic interests of the slave owners. First, a law was passed that freed children born after a certain date. Then another one freed the elderly, who, well, they couldn't work much anymore anyway. It wasn't until 1888 that the Golden Law finally abolished slavery for good, making Brazil the very last country in the entire Western Hemisphere to do so. But here's the thing. Freedom from bondage did not mean freedom from prejudice. Nothing was really done to help the millions of newly freed people. And those cultural seeds that were planted in the senzalas, the slave quarters, they were about to blossom in a way that would reshape Brazil's entire identity. And you can see this incredible legacy of resilience everywhere. On one hand, you have something like Capoeira, a powerful martial art brilliantly disguised as a dance, literally born from the need to practice fighting back. And on the other hand, you have the Negras de Tabuleiro, these amazing market women who use their skills in cooking and business to earn their own money, support their families, and in many cases, buy freedom for themselves and others. Seriously, the influence today is just everywhere. The rhythms that were born in those communities, they evolved into Samba. Brazil's national dish, Feijoada, it has its roots in their creative, resourceful cooking. The Portuguese spoken in Brazil is literally filled with hundreds of words from African languages. And you have these vibrant religions like Candomblé that blend African gods with Catholic saints. This is the direct, living inheritance of those 4 million Africans brought to Brazil. Which brings us right back to where we started. If a nation's soul really is forged in its history, then Brazil's story is without a doubt a painful one. It's a testament to human cruelty, but it is also an absolutely undeniable story of survival, of creation, and of transformation. It shows us that even when you're facing total oppression, culture isn't just something you remember. It's a powerful act of resistance. And ultimately, it's an act of definition.